Okay. I guess the last video I was trying to do, the phone got too hot. I apologize. This is part 4 of Exodus, chapters 7 through 9. Hopefully, this will be it. We will get through this. I have 12 minutes, 29 seconds. So let's do this. Okay. All right. So we were in, where were we? Okay, we are in the livestock, the plagues that affect the livestock. So again, I talked about that. It says that this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, that distinction again, says, let my people go that they will worship me. And then the warning, if you don't let them go, a terrible plague on your livestock in the field, your horses, your camels, and on your cattle and your sheep and your goats. So this is affecting their money. This is affecting their livestock, or obviously their livestock. This is affecting their armies because they don't have the horses for battle. Their money source with their livestock that they use to make money is being taken away from here. This is affecting, again, a large amount of things, okay? And it says, but the Lord will make a distinction again, the livestock of Israelite and that of the Egyptians, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die. So again, he's making that distinction between his people and the Egyptians that we talked about, that God will make a distinction. But it also shows that when we follow God, our house is protected. Our livestock is protected. Our home is protected, right?
You said that.
As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Okay? And again, we go into verse 11, and the magicians. Okay, so before we saw this progression between the Egyptians could copy, but they couldn't relieve a couple of times. Then they couldn't copy because they acknowledged God in this. Well, okay, I guess we aren't actually there yet. I apologize. Okay, so sorry, let's back up. Pharaoh then sends, because the Lord does it, excuse me, y'all, I'm sorry it's getting late and all these video issues, I guess I'm getting a little backed up here. So the Lord sets the time. He says, tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land, and the next day the Lord did it. So now God's setting the time, right? Before we see the timing, Pharaoh does it. Pharaoh sets the time. Moses complies and prays. Now the Lord's setting the time. Now it's the Lord's timing that's coming in on this. And all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one of the animals belonging to the Israelites died. And Pharaoh sent men out to investigate and found that not one of the animals of the Israelites has died, and yet his heart was unyielding, and he would not let his people go. So he sees the provision and protection on the Israelites. He sees that God is doing exactly what he said. He's protecting the Israelites. He's protecting their livestock. He's protecting their stuff, and yet his heart is unyielding. Then moving into verse 8, we have the plague of boils. And, I kind of thought, because now this is affecting the bodies. And we talked about how these plagues kind of went against the different gods of Egypt. And this is kind of a god that I see in ourselves, our own. This is now coming against the body, the self, the image, beauty, right? It's coming against beauty and image and appearances, which don't we have that in today's culture? That beauty and appearances and the way you look is made to be such a high thing and can become an idol in American life. And the Lord says to Moses and Aaron, take a handful of soot from the furnace, have Moses toss it into the air into the presence of Pharaoh. It will become a fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, and the festering boils will break out on men and animals throughout the land. So then, this was the point I was going to make before. It says the magicians could not even stand before Moses because the boils were on them and all the Egyptians. So now we have that progression of the magicians. They could copy it, but they couldn't relieve it. Then they couldn't even copy it, and they acknowledged God. And now they can't even stand because their bodies have now been affected. They can't even stand in the presence of God's people and stand in the presence of Moses and Aaron. But again, the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. He would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said to Moses. Then we go into verse 13, and we have the plague of hail. And it says, we are going to stop in verse 14. Or this time I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. He is showing his power, and he will show that he himself is God. And there is no one like him. There is no one like your God. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you out the earth. He could have just snapped his fingers, killed them all off, been done, and his people would have been set free. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show my power and my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. See, he's doing this for a purpose, that his people may also see what lengths he will go to rescue his people and how he is powerful and magnificent, that he may be glorified in all the earth. You set yourself against my people, and I will not let them go. Therefore, at this time tomorrow, I will send the worst hailstone that has ever fallen in Egypt. From that day it was founded until now. Give an order to bring livestock and everything you have in the field to the place of shelter, because hail will fall onto every man that has not been brought in and sell in the field, and they will die. So he's now giving a warning, and he's displaying his power, but amongst everybody is now given this direction that if you believe and you will bring in your livestock and your people, you will be spared. Only those left out in the field are going to be killed by this hailstorm. Only those left out in the field. We see that in the ark. We see that in the last plague of the firstborn, that those that had the blood over their doorsteps were not killed. So we see in that. So it says, those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried and bring their slaves and their livestock inside. But those who ignored the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock out in the field, and they were killed. And then, of course, they would have gone inside, not necessarily because they feared God, just because they went in at night. It says, then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand towards the sky, so that hail will fall over all of Egypt, on men and on animals, and on everything growing in the fields. When Moses stretched out his staff towards the sky, the Lord sent thunder and hail and lightning flashed to the ground. So the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. Hail fell, lightning flashed back and forth. It was the worst storm in the land since it had become a nation. Throughout Egypt, hail struck everything in the fields, both men and animal. It beat down everything growing in the field and stripped every tree. The only place it did not hail was the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were. So again, we see that he is separating his people, and he is protecting his people, and he's bringing them through it. Then I wanted to go into verse 30. It says, But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord. So see, Moses is using discernment here, that he knows that they are still not fearing the Lord. Even though the Lord has brought in this, even though it is the worst storm they had ever seen, even though these big things are happening, they're still not acknowledging God. So it says the flax and the barley were destroyed. So again, their source of food and their source of money has been destroyed. The wheat and the spelt, however, were not destroyed because they ripened later. Then Moses left Pharaoh and went out into the city. He spread his hands towards the Lord, and the thunder and the hail stopped. So again, we see he's showing that when he prays, it happens exactly how God said it's going to happen. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and the thunder had stopped, he sinned again. So again, that's that. As soon as we get that relief, we have to keep pressing forward into the things of God and not shrink back. He sinned again. He and his officials hardened their hearts, so that Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had said through Moses. That was the end of chapter 9. I hope these videos are blessing you. I hope they're helping you. Please, please, please comment. I post these on Facebook, so please comment. You can follow me on Facebook. I am Cassie Lindstrom Surplus. Follow me on Facebook, or just get in contact with me. Message me if you have any questions, or you just want to discuss what we went over today. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed night. I hope this has encouraged you. I hope that this has raised some questions, and I hope this helps. Thank you so much. Have a great night.